This is a story about time that I took 10 grams of mushrooms, and also my only bad trip ever. So I'd taken from 3.5 to 7 grams before this, and every time I did, it just felt like really strong edibles, put me in a really good mood. I'd be chilling, laughing my ass off, but I never actually hallucinated before. So my next bright idea was to step it up to 10 grams. Now, me and the boys were playing Among Us when I decided to make my mushroom milkshake. It was like an hour or so in when I was so high that after I died, we got to the voting screen, and the cracked tablet in the game for Among Us, when you're dead, started to make me think my monitor was breaking because when the voting screen ended, my monitor still looked like it was cracked, which had me bugging for a moment. Until I rubbed my eyes, everything went back to normal, so I didn't think anything of it other than what the fuck? Like, I knew that wasn't supposed to happen, but I was just like, hey, it's not broken. So an hour, I would go back into the game, and an hour or so after that, the game started getting really difficult to play. I'd be running around, and I couldn't even find what tasks I had to do. So this is when I decided that it'd probably be best to get off after the next couple games and just chill out and see where things went. But unfortunately, this was right when we were gonna start hitting some peak zones of this trip. And in the back of my mind, I started getting really paranoid that something would go wrong. There was just this little voice in the back of my head whispering, "Hey man, you took a lot of fucking mushrooms, dude. Like, you really don't have any idea what's about to happen." And so my anxiety starts going up through the roof, and thoughts of overdosing start popping into my head. Cause I knew it was possible to mess your brain up from a ton of mushrooms, but I also knew I hadn't taken anywhere near that much. But my body started feeling really, really weird, and I was pretty sure it wasn't possible to overdose, but I wasn't 100% sure. Although now I've also found out that you can overdose. I just don't know where that line is to where you hit it and you're fucked. So, anyways, back to the story. As my anxiety starts going up more and more, I just start trying to calm myself down. And I'm just like, it's just a bad trip. It's just a bad trip. It's probably just a bad trip. You're good. You're good. You're good. And so mid game, when I just decided that, hey, something just doesn't feel right now in my body. Like, I don't know what it is, and I can't put a finger on it. So I decided to call someone up who we'll call Mike for the time being for the story. Mike had some experience with this already. He had taken around 10 grams of mushrooms before, in his past. So I called him up for a little bit of information on what the fuck was about to happen. And from his information, what he told me is that when he took 10 grams, that everything was fine for him the next day. He woke up, and he also thought something fucked up was gonna happen, but then he woke up the next day and everything was fine. He was same as the day before, and everything was good. And so it calmed me down a little bit. I was still nervous, and my anxiety was still up really high. So after we hung up, my eyes just started to bug out. Anytime that I would look at anything, my head would just start to hurt, and it would just be anything that produced light. So my monitor started to fuck my brain up. So I just started to turn everything off in my room. I just laid in my bed and tried to calm down and get a grip on what was going on in my head. So I counted down in my head, 3, 2, 1. And when I opened my eyes back up, my door was swung open, and there was a werewolf just standing in the doorway from the show Supernatural, because I'd been watching it a lot recently, before I'd taken these mushrooms. And so I was just paralyzed, staring at it while it walked over to me, until right at the last moment I closed my eyes. When I opened them, and it was just a kaleidoscope of monsters and just animals from the show Supernatural. And I just zoned out for I don't know how long, until I shot up in my bed, and I just rubbed my eyes, and all of a sudden everything was clear and there was nothing there anymore. And right at that moment, everything started to kick into overdrive. and I started to hit the peak of the trip. I was starting to lose control over my brain, and like the best way I can explain it was my consciousness was slipping in and out, and within a minute of my thoughts, they were no longer like my own. The best way to picture it is there were four walls just surrounding my brain, and when I drank the milkshake, it was like it all went straight in, surrounding the four walls of my brain, and slowly just started to break them all down, cracking, the walls seeping in, and till like while I was playing Among Us, just getting me high. And all of a sudden, it was right at that moment that all those walls broke down and it all just swooped in and flooded into my brain. And then that's just when I got washed away inside of myself. So this is when I decided that I had to call Mike back up. And I just asked Mike, I'm just like, hey, like, is there any way you could just come over and we could just chill out for like an hour or something like that? Because I'm not doing good right now. And he's just like, yeah, man, I got you. Just because I was getting progressively like more and more worried. Like I didn't know what was happening. And when I got washed away inside myself and my consciousness started slipping, it started like really, really scaring me. And I basically started thinking that I wasn't going to be the same when I woke up tomorrow. Like at one point, it just felt like my body was on fire while at the same time encased in a layer of ice. It was so fucked up. And it probably took Mike around 15 minutes to get over to my house. But within that time, I started to think that I was actually going to get lost inside myself. Like I've seen so many movies of people just in mental hospitals. I would just be staring at a window looking like they were just actually living inside of their own brain and not like in the outside world. That was becoming my new fear. I was getting like so worried that I would just wake up tomorrow, unable to move. I would just be staring, like unable to even move my neck or my head, in some like altered state of mind. But once Mike got there, he called me up and I grabbed a blanket, wrapped it around me like a little child, and I walked outside into my garage because I knew we couldn't like chill inside my house. It was like 1 or 2 a.m. at this point, and I didn't want to wake anybody inside my house up. Yeah, it's while we were hanging out, like maybe halfway through, where I felt my phone vibrate at some point, and so I just handed it to Mike because I was so fucked up that I just couldn't read it at the time. And he let me know that it was one of my friends that I've been playing Among Us with, who we'll call Marco for the time being. Marco had texted me asking if I wanted to play Warzone, and so I told Mike to just call him up. And when he did, like put the phone in my hands, and I just looked at the camera for FaceTime, and said to Marco, "Hey man, I don't know where I am, but like I just wanted to call you up and tell you I'm okay." Okay, okay. And then Marco just started laughing his ass off. He knew I was fucked up. He was just like, "Alright, buddy, just have a good night there and stay safe." And it was just right after that call hung up, it was back to feeling like my brain was melting away inside of myself. And I was just crawling, and I was back to crawling up to my brain, trying to get a hold of my own consciousness again. And after about 30 minutes of Mike just hanging out with me, I knew that he had to go to bed soon. It was probably like 2:30, 3 o'clock at this point. And Mike had work at 7. And I was just like, I can't keep him up like forever just because I'm fucked up right now. So I let Mike go home to get some sleep, and I tried to get some sleep myself. And it was probably no more than 5 minutes from walking to my house where my brain just started to tell me all the reasons why sleeping might be a bad idea. That I was going to throw up and just start choking on my own vomit and die. Because like there was one point where I just felt like I was going to throw up from all the mushrooms that I'd taken. So like I had the feeling in my stomach already, and I was so fucked up that I didn't even think about just turning my side to like stop all that from happening. I would just lay on my back and then be like, fuck, if I fall asleep, I'm gonna die. I'm not even gonna wake up tomorrow. It was after those 5 minutes that I decided to call Mike back up, and I asked him if he could just like stay on the phone for me until he fell asleep, just so I could like know I was safe basically. While we were just like chilling there, I closed my eyes for probably like 10 minutes, and while I did, it felt like I'd opened them out back up at some point, and I could see Charizard and Pikachu having a fucking Pokemon battle out in one side of my room while Scooby-Doo is watching it on the outside. After all these Pokemon battles going on inside my head, it was probably minutes after Mike had fallen asleep, and Marco, with some perfect timing, had called me up right when I started to get paranoid again that I was gonna just get fucked up and just die for some reason. That we just started talking about some like stupid ass shit from the past, and at some point I forgot that we were talking on cell phones, and I was just like, Marco, yeah, how can I hear you right now? And he's just like, what do you mean? And I'm just like, I looked around my room and you're not here. He's just like, well, obviously I'm not. And I'm just like, oh, did we discover a fourth dimension? Like, I at this point, I completely forgot a cell phone existed. And I just started talking to him about fourth dimension. I was just like, Marco, this is crazy. I think the world folded onto itself and collapsed in. And me and you are talking right now from that. And Marco just started laughing his fucking ass off. He's just like, alright, buddy, look around your bed a little bit real quick and tell me what you find. And I search around with my hands and I feel my cell phone and I pick it up and I look at it and I'm just like, oh, what is this? And he's just like, it's a cell phone. And I turned it on and I was just like, oh my god, I forgot all about these. And it was just like basically at this point my trip had started to level out at this point and started to get to all the enjoyable parts, and I was starting to regain my thought process now and starting to become in control of all my thoughts, no longer struggling to like just get words out at this point. And Marco and I talked for probably like an hour or so about some random ass shit until at some point we both decided to get some sleep. And by the way, if you have watched up to this point, thank you. And if you did enjoy the video, leave a like and subscribe if you feel. Thank you very much. This was my first time making a video like this, so it may not sound the best, but over time I will also work on making a better version of this.